Oh boy. Okay. So it comes down to this. I've been hit with a whole bunch. I've been looking at a whole bunch of comments about a recent ICE atrocity. And well, I've noticed a rather annoying pattern. The pattern is this: people saying, "Oh, well, we ought to see how that really began," or we need more context, and so on and so forth. They're basically saying, "Oh, okay, we see this, but there has to be something else before this that tells us what really happened." And I understand a certain degree of skepticism. There's something you need to know about logic, and that is quite simply that you don't get to claim, if you want a valid conclusion, if you want to reach an appropriate conclusion that is backed by the evidence, you have to accept when the facts are not on your side. Because with logic, the pattern of the facts and how that works with the logic that you're using to determine things, that that's you know if you don't if your argument fails on the basis of not having the facts, then you can't just say, "Oh, but there must be facts somewhere else that mitigate all this, that makes the icky feeling that I'm having go away, or that makes the PR problem that I'm trying to defend somebody from go away." I mean, to be blunt about it, we can best call this an addiction to propaganda, which is to say, people are so used to being to so used to searching out, to saying, "Oh, this couldn't possibly be true," and having somebody present them with something that gives them an excuse to say, it isn't true after all." If that is something you're constantly reaching out for, that's a problem, because it shows that you're kind of jonesing for that propaganda, that pain killing propaganda to come through and ease your cognitive dissonance. That's the trick of things. It's wanting to believe something so bad. I mean, or here's the thing. I've dealt with I commonly I commonly have to look into a supposed allegation coming from the right. And, it might look pretty ugly starting out. But here's the thing, here's the difference. I'm often looking to see whether I have good reason to argue something against what's being presented. But if I don't find it, if I in fact find corroboration, then I'll acknowledge the truth there. I won't go trying to, you know, I won't go trying to counter it, to act like it's not true. Because you know what? The truth isn't always convenient. The truth isn't always kind. But way too often, we see Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, trying to say, "Oh, this," it's like the pretty guy kicking the taillight gives them their, "Oh, he was a bad guy after all. He wasn't all peaceful." They're looking for that. They're looking for that opportunity to say, "Oh, they were lying all along, so I don't have to believe this." In fact, everything is kind of built on the idea that the other side is lying, that any troublesome facts are false. You know, i- and it's kind of developed an addiction to propaganda in people, an addiction to the need to get some sort of comforting new information that can make them say, "Oh, it's nothing." And they did it with January 6th too. Oh, look at all these people just calmly walking through the halls. They were being escorted out. They were being escorted out. Oh, they were letting them in. It must have been a plan. It must have been a setup. They were moving the barricades aside because the January 6th insurrectionists were threatening their lives. There were hundreds of these protesters. You think a couple cops at a barricade are going to just make their last stand there? Y- This is the thing. This is how it's been going. Uh, uh, People have gotten addicted to propaganda. They've gotten addicted to thinking of themselves as the good guys, no matter what. No matter how bad the newest footage looks, no matter how bad everything looks, they're convincing themselves that it's not a problem. And the problem with doing things this way is that it the whole point of getting people addicted to propaganda is to keep them quiet, unresisting, compliant, to keep them, you know, where they're not going, "What the hell is this?" Where they're not going, "We demand answers now. This is an opiate, an opioid of the masses, a way to get away with heinous crap without having to actually stop doing heinous crap." I'm genuinely tired of this. I'm tired of people trying to use context as a jail free card. Context only works. I mean, it's like my old professors say, a difference to be a difference has to make a difference. And so if you've got some context, for example, all of the barricades being moved aside, the guy who took that footage, he basically said that while those cops were doing that, they were being threatened by hundreds of protesters. So rather than it being a mitigation, it's an aggravation. They were threatening the officers in order to get them to move the barricades. It's not evidence that the officers were okay with what they were doing. It was evidence that the officers did not feel they could fight back against this mob that was going through. So I mean, and it's like this whole thing with it's like this whole thing with Ashley Babbitt. Oh Lord, yeah. Anybody who has seen the movie Fight Club probably, and this is spoilers for a um 27-year-old movie. Anybody who has seen that movie has seen the scene where Meatloaf, Meatloaf's character, um, he is shot while on a mission to bomb a public, uh, blow up a public art installation and send that public art installation into a Starbucks. That's the basic setup. But of course, the cops arrive, and while they're running away, the cops shoot Robert Paulson, Meatloaf's character, through the head. And this is graphic. The results of this are graphically demonstrated when they unwrap Meatloaf's body. And the narrator, the narrator sees his friend, who he made while he was, doing his faking illnesses to get into self-help support group sort of meetings. He This friend he made has just been killed, and his response is to say, "This was a man. He had a this was Robert Paulson," and the other guys go, "In Project Mayhem, you don't have any name," and he says, and the narrator vociferously denies this. He goes, "This man had a name. His name is Robert Paulson." And the idiots around him take this as the one guy goes, "Oh, in death, Project Mayhem members have a name." And they start going, "His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson." Even as the narrator, you know, angrily, just gives up on all these people who are just, not getting what he was trying to say. Instead of understanding that this has gone too far, now a friend of mine has been killed, they're understanding, oh, Robert Paulson is a martyr for our cause and we shall honor him. And that is exactly what I thought of. In fact, I anticipated that this would be how they would do things when I heard about Ashley Babbitt's death. And why? Because movements like MAGA love to do this. Movements that support fascism, that support striking back at their political enemies, need martyrs. They need blood spilled to sell spilling blood in turn. And they need constant propaganda. And they need people to want that propaganda, to want that hit of reassurance. But the problem is it's like any other psychoactive drug. It's, it's a hallucinogen. It makes you see things that aren't there. It makes you miss things that are. Propaganda, it has its place, but that place should not be at the it should not be there filtering your intake of information. You should understand there are points at which your side deserves to lose. There are points at which your side is factually in the wrong and factually in the wrong. More or less, my point is sometimes you need to be able to confront the ugly truth about what is happening, about what has happened. Sometimes you need to recognize this goes beyond the pale. Because if you keep on going, sooner or later you'll reap what's been sown. I guess that was it for tonight. Um, just keep that thought in mind. Y'all have a good night.